the street.
Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, it's Purple Daily. You'll notice no Sports Dad today. Sports Dad Judd is taking care of some Sports Dad things. He'll be back for tomorrow's Write That Down episode, and we'll be slinging some takes. So we're making Thor's Day a Tuesday here. Our guy Thor Nystrom, now of Score North. And soon we will announce a couple new podcast projects that involve you, Thor Nystrom. But we'll get to our State of the Vikings discussion topics here. A lot of people have been waiting to hear from you on this podcast over the last 48 hours, and they will hear from you shortly. Before we get into any of it, a shout out to Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Dex?
Yeah, Standard Heating helped me out a ton here when I bought my house. Number one, they took a look at the furnace because we had no idea what shape the furnace was in. They gave me the peace of mind and the pass of, okay, this is a good furnace, good to go. So that was super helpful. And then ever since then, they've helped just service my HVAC systems as a whole, which is great because I'm an idiot when it comes to this type of stuff. And DIY, there's some little things I can DIY. But not the HVAC system, okay? I don't mind going on TikTok and seeing what can I do around the house. Maybe I can lube the garage door. Okay, I can do that. The HVAC system, I let the experts handle it. Contact Standard Heating. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you, and they can take care of that for you.
Max Brosmer calling right there. Yeah, his destiny calling. So I'm going to give a quick overview. It's bad, and then we'll get into our the meat of this and throw it to Thor. So as we do every Tuesday, we give you the playoff odds from ESPN's Football Power Index. It's bleak. The Vikings have a 0.3% chance to make the playoffs. They have effectively a 0% chance to win the division, according to ESPN's FPI, and a 0% chance to win the Super Bowl. Offensive ranks, scoring offense, so points per game, Vikings 25th. Yards per play, 25th. Offensive expected points added, 28th. Not good. Not great, Bob. Defensive ranks, a little better. Scoring defense, 18th. Yards per play defense, 7th. Defensive expected points added, analytically, they are 12th. And then the four kind of all-encompassing categories, where does JJ McCarthy rank among qualified quarterbacks? Traditional passer rating, 34th, which is last. QBR, 33rd, which is last. Expected points added and completion percentage over expected as one analytical measurement. He's 34th, which is last. And PFF grade, he's 38th, which isn't last. It's like third from the bottom. So we got that going for us. So his average rank in those categories is 35th, which gets us into our biggest storyline. He's probably not playing this weekend. He's in concussion protocol with about 5 minutes to go. Everyone kind of thinks, who studied the film, he ran for a first down, got tackled, landed on his head. When I saw that play live, I was like, I don't think he's getting up. And then his teammates kind of came over and basically like walked him over to the huddle. I think he ripped a smelling salt as he was walking over to the huddle stealthily. He had one like in his pouch. And Max Brosmer appears in line to start. And through 6 games, as we just outlined, McCarthy does have some of the worst production of any quarterback in the league right now, and also of any young quarterback in recent NFL history. Thor has been probably the most bullish public-facing media member on JJ McCarthy for a year and a half, and people are mad at you right now. People are lashing out at you, wanting you to be held accountable for your opinions on JJ McCarthy. And so, Thor, the floor is yours. Take this conversation wherever you want.
Well, look, I thought McCarthy would be better through his first 6 starts, for sure. I thought the 2025 Minnesota Vikings would be better as well. The story, and I think the expectation that we all had, was that a Super Bowl contending or quasi-Super Bowl contending quality roster was going to elevate a young quarterback who would get his sea legs and get better and better as the season went along and be put in good situations. And it's kind of turned into the inverse of that, right? Where instead of everyone sort of supporting the young quarterback and his development, the young quarterback is being pointed to as the reason that these things are going wrong, as the sole reason for it. Has JJ, again, has he played as well as we hoped he would? Absolutely not. Is he the offense's only source of problems? No, he's not. JJ has the NFL's highest drop rate by 3%. Still, the pass protection issues have been bad in some of these games. And against the Packers, you had almost a 50% pressure rate, despite the fact that the Packers, I believe, blitzed on only 4 or 5 of JJ's dropbacks. In other words, they were getting immediate pressure with 4-man rushes, so they were dropping 7. I watched the all-22 against the Packers. The broadcast was a tough watch. And so, it was one of those, had to wade sort of into the all-22 slowly. You watch that. I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but there just weren't opportunities there. You can point to 1 or 2 isolated ones where you can be like, why didn't you try to fit it into a tight window? Right. I mean, because that's sort of what you're talking about there with all those pressures coming in less than 3 seconds and them coming on 4-man rushes with the ability to drop 7 back. When you're watching the all-22, it's neat, but not neat. It's annoying, like how sound the Packers are on the back end. And basically what that opens up is this thing where you have 3 seconds and you're going to get perhaps one fleeting opportunity. And you have to be both precise, but you also have to be quick to have any chance to move the ball against the Packers through the air. There's other teams that have not been able to do it. And JJ, that's the thing he needs to work on, is timing. We believe that it's an experiential thing, and he will get better as the game slows down. But the precision and the care and the reading the field immediately, he's just not there yet. But he's being asked in that situation to elevate the team as opposed to vice versa. And he's not there in his development yet. And then he's being pointed at as not only the cause of this, but if we get rid of him, all the problems go away. I think people are going to be sorely mistaken on that.
I think so. I watched the all-22 through the eyes of Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner did a 49-minute. He's one of many people that have done just really in-depth breakdowns. JT O'Sullivan did one again on the QB School. Yep. And so Kurt Warner settled in for like a 50-minute breakdown going through his thoughts on the game. And it was just JJ McCarthy's passing plays. And I would put his commentary. You should watch it if you've got some time here, holiday weekend. If you're feeling masochistic out there, Vikings fans, if you want to relive it through the eyes of Kurt Warner, all 22, I would summarize his commentary with 3 main points. Starting with McCarthy, he was critical. What you just said, you got to get through some of these quicker. Whether you're starting in your 6th game or your 1st game or your 20th game or your 100th game, like, all right, at some point you got to just like move a little quicker through your progressions. Even on some of the throws that he did complete, it was a little later than Kurt Warner. The nice initial completion to Jefferson, which was great, right over the middle. It's his bread and butter throw, boom, right up the seam. And even Warner said he hits the back foot and kind of hitches and hesitates. Just he's got to clean some of that stuff up. So he was very fairly and properly critical of McCarthy when it was warranted on the all-22. But the other 2 things he was critical of, which, again, if you are coming to this show or you're just mad as a fan and all you want to hear is it's 100% JJ McCarthy's fault that this is not working through 6 games, that the offense is terrible, and you don't want to look beyond just the quarterback, then might be a good time to pause the episode and move somewhere else. Kurt Warner, in his own way, savaged Kevin O'Connell's passing scheme. The pure progression, hey, we go through the reads in a pure progression manner, and said, I hate pure progression passing schemes. They're essentially too rigid and difficult, especially for a young quarterback, to get to those quicker answers in the face of pressure. And then the other thing, he criticized some of the pointless chipping that you see from, and I'm using the word pointless. I don't think he used the word pointless, but you got Hawkinson, you got running backs in some cases that are being asked to chip. Well, you've got 2 of the best tackles in the NFL. In theory, like, shouldn't you not have to chip with Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill? And Darrisaw had one of the worst games of his career against Micah Parsons. But what he showed was you've got these long developing downfield routes. Maybe there's 2, maybe 3 receivers going out, 7 defenders because the Packers are only rushing 4. Those are situations where there's not much open down the field. What's the check down outlet? What's the answer down low? And there's not any answers down low schematically in a lot of these situations. because TJ Hawkinson is being asked to chip with Brian O'Neill, and he's not flashing open until maybe 3 seconds after the ball is snapped. And, bro, it's too late at that point. So, I mean, to me, Thor, there is a big JJ McCarthy conversation to be had because we're almost 2 years into this thing. You're eating into that rookie scale contract. It's another injury. It's a concussion on top of an ankle, on top of a meniscus, on top of a hand. And it's like the clock is ticking one way or another on this. But the infrastructure is absolutely worth poking at for all the reasons that you've talked about and Kurt Warner. I think this is it's a McCarthy conversation and a broader discussion about the things around him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and both need to improve, right? I mean, the circumstances and the infrastructure need to improve, and obviously JJ needs to improve. JJ hasn't been good enough, right? I don't know what else to say on that. That's a fact, but the infrastructure needs to improve as well. And I think it's fair, we've talked about this season so far, that O'Connell and McCarthy, they need to eventually find a better meld between O'Connell's system and then McCarthy's game. And I was confident and bullish that this would naturally happen. And I'm a little bit disheartened that it hasn't to this point, but the data point that I could point to that allowed me to believe that was when McCarthy went to Michigan out of high school. He was the 5-star dual threat quarterback who was so good out of structure, and he chose to play for Jim Harbaugh and play in that pro-style offensive system. And it took him a little bit to learn to play within structure as well. People still have their qualms about his in-structure play, but he learned to do it well enough to win a national title for Jim Harbaugh. And by the way, his last season in college as a 20-year-old true junior, he was the best quarterback, for instance, in the nation in throwing intermediate between the hashes. And some of these things in O'Connell's system so far, they have gone the other way, right? The intermediate throwing between the hashes efficiency has totally fallen off a shelf. The third down stuff has totally fallen off the shelf. McCarthy was the best third and fourth down quarterback in college football his last year as well. You have to figure out a way to marry that, where both McCarthy can go through initial concepts of a read like O'Connell's system asks for, but where O'Connell's system accommodates McCarthy's special ability to improvise. And I think to this point, you look on the field, whether it's the broadcast, whether it's watching the game back, it feels like McCarthy's thinking too much, right? And the thing that I talked a lot about in the pre-draft process with McCarthy, the thing I was arguing against was all these bad narratives about he has a noodle arm and he's a mediocre athlete. All these things that have been soundly disproven to this point. It is so clear that McCarthy has the physical ability to be an NFL star. That obviously he's not an NFL star now, and that is up. We'll see if he ends up getting there. But the things that he needs to improve upon to get there, it's the stuff of in-structure play, reading the defense when the bullets are flying, and now the narrative. The same people that I was arguing about in the spring of 2024. No, he does not have a noodle arm. No, he's not a mediocre athlete. Now those people are explaining away JJ's league leading drop rate by saying he throws the ball too hard for NFL receivers to catch. So the narrative on this thing has been rotten from the start. But I think the thing that we can all agree on is the infrastructure has to get better. JJ needs to improve, but he's the youngest NFL starting quarterback, and he has all the physical ability. I still believe staunchly and firmly this is the guy to build around and to try to develop. If other people disagree through 6 games, acknowledging he's the NFL's youngest starter, that's fine. But the thing I wouldn't do if I was a fan out there is try to conflate the situation of this year to last year. And JJ through 6 games, he has not put up the record that Sam Darnold in his 7th NFL season did. So we need to pull the plug on him. Sam Darnold himself is the cautionary tale for why you don't do that. And the circumstances are quite a bit different. The strength of schedule, for instance, was much easier last season than it is this year. So I think fans need to give a little bit of grace and patience to this situation.
It reminds me, Dex, of I was scrolling Instagram yesterday, and the algorithm served me an inspirational message from some account that said, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. And I feel like that's kind of what the Vikings set themselves up for. and set JJ McCarthy up for, and Sam Darnold's going to be staring you in the face this weekend as he puts up crazy numbers. That that Sam Darnold, like you said, 7 years in, had not had a really fully productive season until he joined the Vikings, but had been around enough to. That's the thing about O'Connell is I feel like quarterback whisperer has to be maybe converted to he's a veteran quarterback whisperer more, that we don't know if he can develop a young quarterback, and there hasn't been a lot of evidence this year that it's meshed. Dex, jump in here to this discussion.
Well, on that KOC point, and I went back yesterday, sitting in the lobby at my son's 2-month checkup, killing time, waiting for the doctor to see him. And I was thinking about this. So Kevin O'Connell has shown zero interest as a head coach or even as an offensive coordinator in terms of developing or wanting young rookie quarterback, right? So he kept Kirk for 2 more years when he got here, right? He kept Kirk Cousins around. Everyone thought, oh, they're going to blow it up. Nope, keeps Kirk. Kirk has the Achilles injury, okay? Then they opt for Sam Darnold, a far from finished product, but also a guy that was pretty broken and looked like, oh, okay, he's been a backup now for a year. Is this okay? But he's been in the league for 6 years. He's had experience. Great. He flirts with Aaron Rodgers this offseason. Justin Herbert. They opted to bring in Wentz after Sam Howell stunk in training camp. And he was still the offensive coordinator the last year of Jared Goff with the Rams before they traded for Matthew Stafford. Now, Goff had been in the league for 4 years, had been to a Super Bowl, had orchestrated a nice offense. But still, even if McVay was 95% of the reason they said, I'm done with Jared Goff, it still doesn't help the case that Kevin O'Connell wants to develop a rookie young quarterback. So to answer Phil's point, I don't think he does. When we said who has the stomach for this? Is it the Wilfs? Is it Kwesi? Is it KOC Thor? I don't think Kevin O'Connell has any interest in wanting to do this. And if Drake May was his number 1 pick, which by the way, I think it's safe to say about 28 teams right now have probably had Drake May as their number 1 pick or a top option as a quarterback that aren't the 4 horsemen in the NFL at starting QBs. I don't think he has the interest for this, man. Maybe things change, and I want JJ to succeed, but man, Thor, I think that's been the biggest surprise, that I don't think he has any stomach or interest in wanting to develop a rookie or a first-year starting quarterback.
I to this point, I don't know what you could point at to disagree with that. And the point I was making on Twitter last night is the Vikings franchise, which we've all followed since birth and been fans of since birth, they've won 4 playoff games in the last 25 years. And obviously 0 Super Bowls in their history. And they haven't made a Super Bowl in any of our lifetimes. The fan base, it seems that it wants so badly to go back to the way that things were, right? It's like when your grandpa would talk to you about when the Twins were great, right? And it's that's sort of this fake nostalgia that we have from Viking fans right now, pointing back to a utopia that does not exist. You won 4 friggin' playoff games in 25 years. You've never had success in the way of competing for a championship. My only thing is I'm tired of that. I'm tired of the roller coaster of, okay, maybe they're going to make the playoffs, but they finish a game out of it this year. Man, this is one of the 3 years where we get to qualify for the playoffs and then get decked by Daniel Jones in the playoffs and the New York Brian Dable, right? I'm sick of picking in the middle of the first round, going into every single year, going into every single regular season, believing that there's 0%, literally, analytics right now say 0% chance of Super Bowl. That's how I felt every offseason going into the season with Kirk Cousins and some of the different veteran quarterback every year. I don't want to be in the NFL's middle class anymore. If other fans out there, it seems like vast majority of this fan base says we're not cool with the uncertainty, so we would like to sign up to be in the NFL's middle class for 2 decades going forward. Sign me up, because then at least we'll be competitive every single week. You and I disagree on that. I don't know another way to say it. I want to win a Super Bowl, and if I can't, I'm willing to bottom out at least under the auspices of that idea. If I'm playing the game, I have one of the 32 seats at the table. I'm trying to win that poker game, right? I'm going all in. We are going for it. I'm not interested in the playing it safe thing. I know why Kevin O'Connell is. A way the coaches and GMs and front office folks can hang around for a long time in the NFL is by barely qualifying for the playoffs or barely not qualifying for the playoffs every single year. I understand why personally that would be attractive for them. As a long-suffering Viking fan of 41 years, it is not interesting to me anymore.
I love that you brought this up, this sort of like false sense of competitiveness that the Vikings have fostered better than almost any other team without ever having that long-term quarterback going back decades and decades. But you brought up something else there about the way people operate in their jobs in the NFL, in front offices and coaching staffs. And I think you're going to start to see this dynamic play out this offseason for the Vikings. I had a conversation with someone a couple years ago who was fairly new to an NFL front office and said, my biggest revelation in just being in this world for the first time is people don't make, on the outside, you think you're making decisions like in your head as a fan or an analyst or whatever it may be based on the long-term arc and what might be good for a franchise. But people on the inside are oftentimes making decisions to stay employed for like another year or 6 months. And so for this, the bailing on McCarthy thing, for example, on one hand, he's 22 years old, and it's definitely fair to criticize the first 6 games because they've been atrocious. I don't know how many more times we can say that here. But there are way too many examples of late bloomer quarterbacks floating around the NFL. One of them passed through your building last year and got MVP votes to just like write off someone's career at age 22, 6 games in, as bad as it's looked. Now, on the other hand, a lot of quarterbacks come into the league with worse coaching than JJ has, worse infrastructure, worse weapons, et cetera, and they find a way to have a better set of numbers than McCarthy has to this point. But as it pertains to the Vikings timeline, you have key stakeholders that are probably thinking about their job security now going in, maybe even might lose jobs in like January or February. And I think Kevin O'Connell, and if Kwesi's still around, I think you're going to have people looking for quarterback insurance policies. And I don't necessarily blame them because they want to keep their jobs. If you do let's say the right thing is to let McCarthy play another season. And maybe to your point, Thor, maybe the right thing there is you find out for sure that he can't play and you win 3 games. And that might be for all of us on the outside looking in. Great. Now you get to take a swing higher up in the draft, try again in a more fruitful quarterback draft. Well, the problem is the people that are operating that 3-win team are all going to get fired. So they're thinking to themselves, how do I preserve my job in 2026? And that leads me to the other point you brought up about this false sense of competition that the Vikings have had a lot of really good teams. They're very rarely a bottom-feeding team in our lifetimes. Any of us. Dex in his 30s, Thor and I are closer to that 40-year-old age. And I think the most important thing to consider regarding this never-ending revolving door of quarterbacks year after year after year with the Vikings is the amount of times they have fooled you into thinking that they're Super Bowl contenders with random quarterbacks. Now, I could pick out maybe 2 or 3 times where they actually were Super Bowl contenders and then something terrible happened. 09, 98, maybe 2017. In all the other years that they are like a playoff team or competing for the playoffs with Sam Bradford or, I mean, even at the end of the day, Sam Darnold last year, they weren't actual contenders. They were just a competitive team with a random quarterback. They avoided being a dumpster fire. In 2009, if you find the Hall of Famer and catch lightning in a bottle, okay, like I'll take 1 year of a Hall of Fame random quarterback. Randall Cunningham in 98 in his heyday was a top 5 quarterback. In 2017, you had the number 1 defense. If you get the right random quarterback or the number 1 defense, you actually can be a Super Bowl contender for that 1 year, but it's like a smelling salt of contention. You're not like sustainably contending over an 8 or 10 year period with those formulas. And so the best path to sustainable contention is to nail that rookie quarterback draft pick and then live with the early growing pains if needed. If you nail the pick and the development, now you're contending for years potentially. Now you're the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. The Patriots are about to do this again for 10 years. The Packers are in contention with Jordan Love on a regular basis. The problem is it's risky to draft those quarterbacks because they might not work out. It might be a train wreck. And I think we're having a hard time, the collective we, processing all of this right now. That, hey, you could go back and go get Mac Jones. You could try the Aaron Rodgers thing. Are you really winning a Super Bowl with Mac Jones? Or are you just going to be, okay, thank God we're a 10-win team again? That's when I talk about the stomach for this. The variance at the bottom end is what you're seeing now, which is he's terrible through 6 games, and you're going to get drubbed in Seattle. And Vikings fans and ownership are uncomfortable with that.
100%. Yeah, like, and people are like, oh, you know, I don't want to watch this, and I don't want to watch this into perpetuity, and we can't just give years to JJ's development. I'll give you what my worst case scenario with this is, and I'll give you what I would do. You're gonna do that. You're gonna do that in just a moment. Okay. We're gonna tease that for the other side of this because we do want to shout out if you're sick to your stomach watching the Minnesota Vikings play football right now, MNGI Digestive Health is here to help you. Listen, I have had a lot of issues as documented on this show throughout my life, digestive issues and the like. MNGI has been super helpful to me, even going back like 20 plus years. MNGI Digestive Health has helped me with acid reflux, with GERD. It can be embarrassing if you have stomach problems. Monitoring where bathrooms are, exit strategies. It's kind of always on the back of your mind. Well, MNGI and their specialists have given me the help over the years and the guidance that helps me manage my symptoms and maybe just get out in front a little bit more. So don't let digestive issues sideline you. Get expert coaching from MNGI Digestive Health. Schedule a visit at MNGI.com. That's MNGI.com. MNGI.com. Dex, 2 Men in a Truck, also powering this Thursday on a Tuesday.
Yeah, shout out to 2 Men in a Truck. They made my move happen. They're awesome. I don't have to worry about figuring out which friend has the truck or does it even have enough room to get all the stuff in it. It's super stressful moving. Moving is one of the most stressful things you can do, whether it's just down the street, whether it's across the country. 2 Men in a Truck, though, they have the different size trucks. They have the different size crews. They can make all that move happen. They safely package everything to get it in and out of your house appropriately. They'll just send you a spreadsheet. What needs to get out of your house? What do we need to help you with? What they quote is what you pay to. No hidden fees, no service charges. Go contact 2 Men in a Truck. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you.
And then Roku TV. We actually had a fun little Roku meeting yesterday talking about the gloriousness of these TVs for sports viewing. And this time of year, I love the recommendations that the Roku menu gives the Mackies. Here's the sporting event and the team that you want to watch. Boom, what platform is it on? Oh, yes, Mr. Mackey, we will take you there with one click of a button. Oh, you want some ambient music, maybe a little holiday music with a U-log in the background. Here's the Roku channel. Yes, Mr. Mackey, here is your cocktail jazz for your winter listening. It's great, whether it's sports, whether it's even music or ambience or entertainment. Roku makes it really easy to find and immerse yourself in whatever it is that you want. Kicking back after a long day at work or a long week with friends, with family, whatever it may be. Roku is better TV for everyone, America's #1 streaming platform. Go to Roku.com to learn more or shop at a retailer near you. All right, Thor, continue this conversation.
For me, the worst case scenario, the sort of the nuclear winter scenario that we're looking at here, it would entail the thing of the Wilfs are super ticked off after the season, but it's not a full measure. And so let's say they fired the whole front office, starting with Kwesi and then all of his lieutenants on down. And then you do an aggressive culling of the coaching staff, but of course not Kevin O'Connell. So like Matt Daniels, maybe Wes Phillips, maybe Josh McCown, some of these position coaches, they get fired. They're sort of your sacrificial lambs, and that they act as sort of human shields on O'Connell, absolving the culpability for the disappointment of this season. And I think in the moment that would satiate the anger of the fans that you had people to point at and say it's their fault. The issue with that scenario, I think, is exactly what you were setting up, Phil, where for Kevin O'Connell, what that would be telling him is you have a 1-year tryout again in order to save your job, right? All the people around you are now gone. We're going to give you one more shot to turn this around. Well, in a one-off situation, what are the odds that O'Connell would push to have McCarthy be the quarterback for that? If your entire, whether you're going to keep your job is going to be dependent on how many wins you have next season, assuredly Kevin O'Connell is going to be, I think you mentioned on the show yesterday, the Aaron Rodgers, now then he'd be 42 this offseason. You could try to sign him. You can convince him, roll him out weekend at Bernie style for another season. You could do Russell Wilson. You could do. There ain't a lot of options out there.
I'm even gonna draw the line at that apocalyptic scenario of Russell Wilson. I'm gonna. That's where I'm drawing my line.
So as far as free agents, we're already basically done there. If we assume that Daniel Jones is re-signing with the Colts, and I think we all assume that they'll franchise him if nothing else, but it seems like a long-term deal is going to work out there. It's Rodgers, Wilson, Mariota. And
those are free agents. What if I throw it? Let's say they decide, well, hey, we're durability, everything. We aren't feeling it with McCarthy, but we are feeling it with Anthony Richardson, and we're going to float a 5th or 6th round pick. Like, what if it was that type of thing where you move into a different, younger quarterback, like another reclamation project, but he's not 35, 40 years old like Aaron Rodgers?
If Vikings fans don't like the accuracy and the pocket presence of JJ McCarthy, hold my beer for the Anthony Richardson.
He'll probably hit it. He'll probably hit it if you're holding it in the 5th row. That's the problem.
I don't see that one, but people have tossed out the Mac Jones one a bunch. They're connecting dots and tea leaves and stuff. Oh, let's play that one out, right? So O'Connell trying to save his job there at this offseason. It's like, okay, so we're going to have to trade for Mac Jones, right? He has one more year left on his contract. What do you suppose the 49ers are going to ask a desperate team in exchange for that? Second round
pick? Yeah.
And if you have done a great job of cratering the value of your own asset, JJ McCarthy, that you could have traded last spring for a high 1st round pick to start a package. You now would have tanked his value to the point where what do we think they could get for him this offseason?
Yeah.
Barring a super hot finish, but of course, in a super hot finish, we're not in this scenario where we're talking about this. But maybe a second and change. If you complete out this tanking, I mean, that was sort of the Josh Rosen package after his year. So basically, at that point, you've decided we're going to trade the next 3 years of JJ McCarthy's rookie contract for 1 year of Mac Jones, and we're going to get back into the NFL middle class purgatory. Sure, might that save O'Connell's job next year? And are they going to finish with a better record than whatever they're going to finish with? It? Sure, you're going to win 8, 9, maybe 10 games or whatever. You think you're going to win the Super Bowl with Mac Jones and then the vestiges of this roster? I mean, get out of here. So to me, that is the worst case scenario where you willingly move back into the NFL's middle class and you give all the decision-making power to a guy where his decision-making is going to be 100% influenced by the 2026 team and nothing beyond that. I think that puts the team in a bad spot. As for me with McCarthy, people, again, it's like, oh, we don't want to do this forever. You see the sort of these two polarities with it. I don't think it should be forever either. I think it should be through the end of next season. You have the rest of this season to evaluate him. Obviously, he missed his first season, and that seems like a lost developmental year. That stinks. Can't do anything to get it back. You have the rest of this year, and then again next year. Mention this offseason, free agent quarterbacks. It's a barren wasteland. You could try to do the trade thing. We talked about the Mac Jones thing. I don't think the value of that makes sense from a draft pick perspective. You could try. Your cap situation is going to get mucked up if you trade for a guy like Kyler Murray. Plus, you're going to have to give draft pick compensation. And then if you think, well, okay, let's just go back to the draft and draft another one because Thor just said we're probably going to have a decent shot at a top 10 pick. This is not the spring you want to take a quarterback. There might only be 2 first-round quarterbacks. At best, we'll have 3. But, between Fernando Mendoza, we're hoping that Ty Simpson closes out this season and proves that he's a first-round pick. The other guy who's kind of up in the air is Dante Moore from Oregon, merely because we don't know if he'll go back to school or not. But there's going to be multiple teams ahead of the Vikings that are quarterback desperate. You're not even going to get access to those guys. The sick draft class is not in 2026. It is in 2027. That is where you have the potentially historic wide receiver class, and the quarterback class is going to be way, way, way better. Arch Manning, Sam Levitt, Lenora Sellers, who we all believe is going back to school. If Dante Moore returns to school, plus all the true sophomores in college football right now, what I would advocate the Vikings do, roll it forward. And people out there that are like, McCarthy's a bust, McCarthy stinks. Great. You want to recoup the value from the draft pick that you put into JJ McCarthy, and you think he's horrible. Great. Start him for 17 games next year and try to work your way up to the first pick if that's what you think. If you think he is so bad, if he's a train wreck, I would advocate for playing him. You can't go back out if you're the Vikings, and in my opinion, and move back into that middle class by paying out cap space $30+ million for veteran mediocrity. You need to go back. If indeed me and the Vikings are proven wrong about McCarthy, you need to use another first-round pick on a quarterback. That is your path. The surest path that we have, you look back the last 25 years of the NFL, the surest path that you have to going to a Super Bowl is hitting on that rookie scale quarterback. But again, next year, you not only do you give McCarthy that final shot to show he is the guy to build around, and that's an adequate amount of time. You're heading into the fourth year. You're going to have to make a decision on your fifth year option. That's a lot of times when teams make decisions, certainly on quarterbacks, but also rookies at other positions the third year. I think that's you're doing right by McCarthy with that, but you're also doing right by the organization. And if all else fails and the thing goes bust next year, well, you have now your top 5, your top 6 pick to take a quarterback in the stacked draft class, as opposed to this one this spring, which is mediocre.
That sounds perfectly reasonable to me, regardless of what side of the scale or fence you are when it comes to McCarthy. If you are bullish on McCarthy, like you remain bullish, I remain curious. I don't know if I'm bullish as much as curious still, but I would like to see more than 6 games still, as bad as the 6 games have been. So if you're bullish, yeah, you want to see more. Obviously, you want to see more. If you're not bullish, you just laid out the case. This is the problem. If you're out, if you're a fan or a media member or a stakeholder in the Vikings and you're out, okay, the quick fix back to feeling a little better, you're a little like binky, right, would be go get a more competent veteran quarterback that gets you back to like 8 to 10, maybe 11 wins. And now we feel the problem is I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of people would rather like just watch a competitive season that gets you to 9 or 10 wins, 65 years of competing but not actually winning a Super Bowl, unless you hit the lottery in the playoffs or something and Mac Jones goes lights out for 4 games. I mean, I guess it has happened before. But you're laying out a case, because I've brought this up before, which is, what is the opportunity cost? If you're done, if you're out after 6 games of McCarthy and you want to move on to something else, what's the opportunity cost of continuing on with McCarthy? That you might miss out on a 2nd-round pick for Mac Jones. You might miss out on 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. You might miss out on a bad first-round quarterback draft class in 2026. There really isn't much to lose. I mean, if there's something to criticize, I guess it would be that you think Sam Darnold, for half the price of the top of the quarterback market, is capable of being a guy that can win a Super Bowl. And I will leave my mind open to that possibility, because he was a 3rd overall pick, super toolsy, athletic, big arm, everything, right? But now that decision's been made and it's a sunk cost at this point, you might as well see this through for as long as possible moving forward. What throws a little bit of a wrench into it, though, Thor, what if Max Brosmer clicks a little bit? What if Max Brosmer plays really well for a couple weeks and they like win an unexpected game against Seattle? What does that do for this equation for you?
Well, the cheat code is getting the good starter on the rookie scale contract. Max Brosmer was a UDFA. People have tossed out if that happened, it would be, reminiscent of the Brock Purdy and the Trey Lance. If that happens and Max Brosmer is a revelation, and it's like, oh, this guy clearly, has a skill set that could be developed as an NFL starter. Yeah, I would like to look into that. Do I think that that's going to happen? I mean, I hope. I hope, if indeed Max Brosmer is starting against the Seahawks, I hope he goes and lights it up. Just like I hope every Viking quarterback goes out there and lights it up. And if that ended up changing the equation based on what he shows in an NFL game, and you start to think about Brosmer and McCarthy, the long term, a little bit different. Okay, we can cross that when it comes. That to me, that's a different scenario than, Thor, do you want to figure out a way for a team that's already projected $30 million over the cap next season to not only clear that, but you're going to have to clear another $35 million to sign, that's to Kyler Murray or whatever. Like, that's what I don't want to get into. You're blowing up the roster to the point where you're guaranteeing yourself you won't win a Super Bowl well in advance of the season starting. But Brosmer, I'm interested. I mean, the training camp was very impressive. He had the couple drives was against the Titans ones in that one, right? Where he played the starters of the Titans. Yeah. And the decision-making was impressive there. His ability to go through the progressions was impressive. It was the thing that people always talked about in college, when he was in college. I'll never forget Eric Galko, the Shrine Game czar, going nuts to me about Max Brosmer for a year plus, through the time when the Gophers got him and then through his draft process. Galko was just banging the table of this guy is criminally underrated, and he's so dang sharp, and he's going to hang around the NFL for a long time. Max Brosmer had a lot, and there's a bunch of Gopher fans out there that were like, that's what I was saying from and I know, I seen you guys on Twitter, like Brosmer has a contingent of fans, and it looks like he's going to get his opportunity this week. I hope he goes and runs with it. There is a skill set there, and some of Max Brosmer's better skills, they are fits with Kevin O'Connell's offense. So I'll be very curious to see what happens there. I do want to give just the contextual benefit of the doubt that people won't give to McCarthy, that some of these systemic offensive issues have been season-long things. They were issues with Carson Wentz under center, the same way that they were JJ McCarthy. And the only thing I would quasi caution people, getting that are super and get excited, for folks out there that want to see Brosmer, but just this, again, the circumstances have not been as good this season. So I'm not getting out over my skis with expectations, but I hope that he ends up going out there and playing really well.
Yeah.
Thor, draft question for you. So right now, if the draft were to take place this week, the Vikings will be picking, shockingly, 12th.
Yeah.
I feel like they've been perpetually picking somewhere between 12th and 21 for like the majority of my lifetime. So right now, if they want to get in to the top 6, so there's one win or one game separating, like Cleveland's 3-8. So it's Washington and Cincinnati and Arizona, and then Miami, Atlanta, which goes to the Rams, and Minnesota's all, they have 4 wins. Do you think that there is a likely path for them to still pick in the top 10? Obviously, if they lose out, this math becomes very, very easy. But, there's a lot of kind of jumbled mess here between, the 3-8 and 4-7 teams right now, from, just the 6th pick all the way up to the 13th pick. Do you feel that the Vikings could still get a top 10 pick, or maybe with some of the like Washington, for example, in a couple in next week, like that might be a win for the Vikings, which again complicates maybe the draft order. Is a top 10 pick in play for the Vikings still, or are they probably going to be in their perpetual land between like 12 and 15?
I think a top 10 pick would be the favorite outcome right now. You look at the rest of the schedule, and coming out of the bye, you looked at the schedule, it's like, man, this thing's getting grisly. And then they upset the Lions, and it's like, oh, well, maybe we had a moment of hope, but now, reality's set back in. We always knew with this schedule that where it was easy was at the beginning, or, NFL easy, and where it got really difficult was the end. And you look ahead and starting this weekend in Seattle, and even before the circumstances of the roster, obviously Seattle's a really good team, and you're going into one of the more difficult environments to play in the NFL. Still have a game left with the Lions and the Packers. You do have the ones, the Giants and the Commanders games are the ones that be projected to win. And for the draft order, you hate to put it this way, but the Washington game from afar kind of looks like a must lose. That's a team that is, to your point, Declan, right now, the projections, Washington is 7th. The Vikings are 12th, but Washington's only one game behind or whatever, right? Like one game worse in the win total, which you could erase with that one. But yeah, for the Vikings to get a potential top 10, but certainly top 8 or top 6 asset potentially would be absolutely enormous. It introduces the possibility of getting a prospect, like, for instance, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, that's going to be a top 3 consensus prospect on everyone's board. He's a safety, but he is one of those queen on the chessboard move him everywhere, and he just erases mismatches on the other side kind of a guy. You just put him over another guy and just knock him off the board like a queen before the play. There's other guys out there too, certainly, that the Vikings would be very interested in, but Caleb Downs in particular, if you get up into that range.
Yeah. Boys, let's get into the next phase of State of the Vikings Tuesday here. Our favorite and least favorite things. Shout out to Park Dental. One of my favorite things, Park Dental. It's an enjoyable experience going to the dentist. Yeah. Friendly people, state-of-the-art facilities. For over 50 years, Park Dental has been caring for and cleaning teeth in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. They've even treated the teeth of some prominent professional athletes in town. I don't know if I can say which athletes without getting in trouble, but if anybody who's anybody goes to Park Dental. So you can find likely a convenient location within just minutes wherever you live or work. ParkDental.com to schedule your appointment. That's ParkDental.com. Also, it's holiday season, and there's no better gift than the gift of steaks for that loved one in your life. Omaha Steaks. Football season cooking is the best. Tailgate cooking, winter cooking. The Mackeys also enjoy convenient weeknight meals that you don't have to think too much about. And over at omahasteaks.com, our listeners get an extra $35 off with the promo code PURPLE at checkout. Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher since 1917, a family-owned company with 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. Every steak perfectly aged to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. Again, that's omahasteaks.com. Use the code PURPLE at checkout for an extra $35 off your steak order. And, it's been a minute since this guy's had 100 yards in a game. Justin Jefferson, he's snarling here in like a competitive way. These Pepsi cups, he might have a different look on his face if he can't get a hundo sometime soon. But these Justin Jefferson souvenir cups have a QR code on the side. You can get these inside U.S. Bank Stadium, at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh locations, and at Buffalo Wild Wings when you order 10 wings any style and a Pepsi. When you scan the QR code, you can enter to win Victor's Ride, a Polaris Ranger 1000. So check them out at those aforementioned locations. Pepsi, the official beverage of the Minnesota Vikings. All right, Thor, give us your favorite current Vikings thing that we haven't already exhausted in the first 45 minutes of this episode.
So I guess it'll be a non-JJ topic. Well, my next one would be one of two other 2024 picks. My favorite thing with Vikings right now is the way that Dallas Turner has played the last 3 games, and then just Will Reichard, period. Big leg Bill, or as I called him this past weekend, third leg Bill, when he hit another 60-yarder or whatever. Reichard's been absolutely amazing. The one Kwesi draft pick that was just right down the fairway, just bombed that one. Reichard has been great, but Dallas Turner probably the one I'd like to focus on. We talked about, what was it, like a month ago, 4 weeks ago, I watched all Turner's all 22. And, my whole thing with that, Dallas Turner was getting a lot of criticism, was on the tape. He was getting there. There was a lot of times where he was beating his blocker and getting into the backfield, and he was really close to converting some of these plays, and he just wasn't getting there. And then, later on you had like the sack that they called the roughing the passer, and you had some different stuff like this. But Dallas Turner has really come on the last 3 weeks. And he's starting to look, it's like the forward attacking thing is the thing that we've talked a lot about. He is, don't look now, and maybe I'm going to knock on some wood before I say this, but he has looked better in space as well. I'm not, saying I'm going to put him on, the elite tight ends of the league and trust him one-on-one down the field and everything like that. But at least to the point where it's like, oh, maybe he can develop into something more than someone you have to hide in a zone. So Dallas Turner playing much better, and a time when he was needed, Grenard and the health stuff with Van Ginkel before that. So hats off to Dallas Turner.
Yeah. Dex, favorite current Vikings thing?
Well, here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to justify the question, but I'm still going to answer the question, okay? Just making that very, very clear.
Wow.
My least favorite thing is the fact that you're in the NFC North and the Bears and the Lions and the Packers are all better than you, and you're in the basement, and it stinks. It really stings seeing the Bears, 8-3, even if there's some fraudulentness there. But the Vikings are on track to have a locked-in fourth-place schedule, which means in 2026 they'll be playing the fourth-place teams.
Let's go.
So some of those teams
bring on those bad competition. Let's go.
Yeah, some of those teams like the Giants, the Saints, the Cardinals, already, so like there's actually Vikings.com laid this out last week even. So the home opponents for the Vikings that include their 3 divisional teams will be the Falcons again. They'll play the Panthers at home. They will get the Bills, which will be interesting. Josh Allen come to US Bank Stadium for the second time. Hopefully he doesn't hurt anyone this time around. They'll play the Dolphins at home, and then they'll play the NFC East, AFC South teams that finish in the same place as their division. So the fourth place teams there.
So the Giants, and then what was the other one? The Saints?
The NFC South, which would, be the Saints. Likely the Saints. Saints.
Although the Giants getting, if they get, Scadaboo and Neighbors and Jackson Dart back and they hire the right coach, could actually be...
Yeah.
And if they can stop, they're giving up 12 points a game in the fourth quarter, which is a historically bad mark. So there's some things to pretty quickly get better with the Giants.
And they'll have a top 3 pick, and so actually that Giants team might be a little bit better. And then on the road, the Vikings currently scheduled to play the Bucks. They will play the Patriots and Jets, and then they'll play the NFC West team that finishes in the same place as their division as well. So look, it stings being in the basement of the NFC North. I'm in my basement right now, talking on a podcast with you. But it's setting things up in 2026 till very likely, even if the Vikings rattle off some wins here, they need some help to get out of the fourth place spot, being 3 games back with 6 games to go. So it's tracking to be at least some silver lining here, a fourth place schedule for the Vikings in 2026.
There's always things we can look for in the optimism bin. I love that too. I'm already picking next year's schedule right now mentally. It's great. My favorite thing is Kevin O'Connell committing to the run on 3rd and 4th and short, except for that Hawkinson fail. I hated that. But if you take that away, 3 other times the Vikings ran the ball on 3rd or 4th and short, 2 or less, and they converted 2 first downs out of 3. And even if you include the Hawkinson fail, they were 50% conversion rate. Whereas when they have called a pass play in those situations with McCarthy, they are still 0 for 16 trying to convert first down. So run the ball in those short yard spots, keep the chains moving. All right. Least favorite thing, I'll start here and just throw it down the line to you guys. But I hate that Ryan Kelly is playing. It makes me uncomfortable. And there was a play where Micah Parsons absolutely dumped him on his back on a play. He told the Star Tribune that he did a lot of soul searching, getting as many answers as he could following his second concussion this season. And after that soul searching and getting answers, he decided to go with a different helmet and play again. But I hate it for 2 reasons. One, I don't want him to get another concussion on a human level. Dude, the season's pretty much over anyways. And number 2, I think Blake Brandel is the starting center in 2026. I think he's pretty good. And they're gonna need some economically efficient ways to plug some holes because they're so far over the cap. So I'd rather just keep the party going with Blake Brandel and get him as many reps as possible, because I think there's a very, very small chance that Ryan Kelly is on this team in 2026. So that's my least favorite thing. Thor?
You're talking about a washed up veteran that shouldn't be playing anymore, that maybe ought to be doing some soul searching. So that's a natural segue to Adam Thielen, my least favorite thing.
God.
I cannot watch Adam Thielen on the field for another snap again. I loved, over the summer, we all got a kick out of the story, and it was feel good and everything of Thielen coming home, and he had played really good for Carolina last year, sort of had the career resurgence. I think we were all hoping, obviously, for better, and Addison with the suspension at the beginning of the season, and Jefferson had been out with the hamstring in August, and Naylor had been out with the hand, and you were in a situation that did feel desperate, at the end of August, heading into the NFL debut of your 21-year-old quarterback. And it made sense why they did it, but Carolina, man, taking advantage of an opportunity there, you extract what's either going to be late 4th round or early 5th round overall value out of Adam Thielen, a guy who has the world's largest fork sticking out of his back right now. The guy, obviously, he's not creating separation anymore. He has lost the speed and everything like that, can't get downfield. I cannot believe that he can't catch the ball anymore. He is a major contributing factor to why McCarthy easily leads the NFL in drop rate, him and his buddy Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, we need around for a little bit, so hopefully he can figure his stuff out. Adam Thielen, I don't believe he should be getting any. In my opinion, he should dang near be released. They're not going to do that to him to show him up before the end there. But that is a guy that has been a value suck on this year's team.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch with Adam Thielen.
Every time, and then he's like looking at his hands, like it's like, it's every single time. It's like, Adam, it seems like what you actually want to do is go on the radio and give your opinions on various topics. It seems like that's the prerogative of you and your family. Maybe that's what's next here for you, because the football field ain't doing it.
Yeah, it's been an underwhelming acquisition. Dex, you already kind of threw yours. You have any other things you want to gripe about before we say goodbye?
I'll add to Thor's Adam Thielen note. So and part of this is the quarterback too, but JJ McCarthy has targeted Adam Thielen 18 times this season. And when targeting him, he has a passer rating of 55.1.
How many drops in there for old Thielen?
Pro Football Reference says 3. Feels more than that. Feels like more than that. But yeah, 3 drops. But for context though, last year he only had 2 drops all season long with the Panthers.
Adam Thielen's drop rate this year is 27.3% on target, on target balls.
Good Lord.
That is insane. 10% is where with the NFL draft, it's red flag territory. If you have a 10% drop rate in a season when you're coming out, that's where I'm like, this guy has a red flag drop percentage. Adam Thielen's is nearly 3 times that, and he can't get downfield no more or create separation. Get him off the field.
Yeah. I think it would help if the quarterback took a little juice off some of those throws. I'm just saying.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the guy with the noodle arm, whose arm now is so freaking strong that the best receivers on earth can't catch his passes. It's funny how that changed.
Excited to watch more Vikings football this weekend. Max Brosmer at least puts a little jolt into a season that is going the wrong way here. But Thor Nystrom, and if you have any gripes about Thor, drop them in the comment section here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel.
Send them to Phil, not to me. Send them to Phil.
Send them to the Sports Dad for Dex. Yeah. We will see you guys. We got O-line committee coming at you, and then write that down predictions as well on the Purple Daily feed tomorrow. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
Not losing the first round, win a Super Bowl.